Hey everybody, Jem Schofield here, and welcome to the Nebula Evoke 150C and 600C video training series. In this video, it's part 1 of 2 at the bench, where we're going to get into these two fixtures, their hardware, powering solutions, modifiers, all kinds of stuff. So let's get started. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Nebula C8 light engine, which is the light engine that drives both the Nebula Evoke 150C and 600C. And this is a big evolution in terms of lighting technology. The Nebula C8 light engine is the first light engine to use 8 distinct colors. Previously, in lights like the Nanlite Forza 60C and the Nanlux Evoke 900C, those lights used a 6-color light engine: red, green, blue, lime, amber, and cyan. But with the Nebula C8 light engine used in the 150C and 600C, they've added deep red and indigo. As a result, you have a wider spectrum, which gives you more accurate, better quality white light, which we need all of the time. In fact, there's a CCT loop going on right now on the 150C, and we can now get white light in that correlated color temperature range down to 1000 Kelvin all the way up to 20,000 Kelvin. So that's a huge range in terms of correlated color temperature. And we're getting much more saturated colored light out of this light engine as well. So these lights are covering about 94% of the Rec 2020 color gamut. Awesome light engine. And from my usage in the real world, what we're getting from this is more accurate skin tones across the boards, lighter and darker skin tones, better white light. And when we're using color in our productions, that color is deeper, it's more saturated, and it's more accurate to what we would expect a camera to capture. Okay, let's talk hardware for these fixtures and also powering solutions. And I'll start with the 150C, but before I do that, I want to say that if you own these fixtures, you're renting them, or you're going to be buying them, the first thing you should do is go to Nanlux's website and download and install the latest version of the firmware for the lights that you're using. Okay, first thing to know about these fixtures, and this is common between both of them, this is it. This is the entire thing. There's no ballast, there's no controller, everything is built into the head. And all you need is one power cable. I'll talk about some other powering solutions for the two fixtures after this, but I'm just going to plug this in and I'm going to go ahead and strike this light. So we're going to power that up here. And we're going to talk about some of the features hardware-wise that you should be aware of. First of all, for the 150C is what's called the FE mount. This is an electronic mount. If you've used some Nanlite fixtures, some of the smaller ones like the 60C, for instance, which uses the FM mount, the big difference is this has electronic contacts. So you can use FM mount accessories with this light, but you can also use newer FE mount accessories. And this is great for certain things. For instance, if you look over my left shoulder at the 600C, there's actually an accessory there, which is an adjustable Fresnel lens, that FL22E, and that has contacts and it has electronics, so you can control it from the light fixture itself or from a wired controller. All right, so what we're going to do here is we just pop this right in here. You're going to go ahead and click that into place with a clockwise rotation. And then we have an additional safety on here. I'm just going to turn this fixture off for a second. And what we have is Nanlux's Posi-Tight system. So you click it into place and then you lock that down. Works exactly the same on the 600C. And what I've just attached here is the included 45-degree reflector that comes with the 150C. The native beam angle of the 150C is about 47 degrees. When you use this reflector, it changes that to 45 degrees. But here's the difference. Because it is a reflector, you're going to get a lot more output from the fixture using this. So it's not quite double, but it's in that range in terms of that intensity. But in the case of the 150C, we're not changing that beam angle very much when we're using it. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this around here, and I want to talk about the yoke that comes with this. So you have a yoke which can be very easily taken off. So I'm just going to go ahead and release those two right there. And then you will see that this will actually just slide right off of the fixture. I'm just doing it like this for now. And now we no longer have the yoke attached. Now what's cool about this fixture is we have quarter 20 taps here on the top. There's a quarter 20 tap here on the right hand side. There's another quarter 20 tap right here on the left hand side. All right, one other thing I want to talk about, which is an accessory that you can use with the 150C. And it's this little baby pin attachment that you can attach directly to one of these yoke mounts over here. So I'm just going to lock it into place just like you would lock the yoke in. And now you have a baby pin, a 5/8 baby pin that is coming right off of the light fixture. It's just another mounting point that you can use, and just press the release, take it off, and then of course what I can do now, and I will do, is attach this yoke again. Okay, yoke back on, and now we're going to talk about just a couple of other things with the 150C. We were powering over mains before, so I'm going to go ahead and unplug that. And if you look at the left side of the yoke, there's actually a V-mount little attachment there, which I've attached a V-mount lock battery to. There's an included D-tap cable that comes with the 150C, and I'm just going to go ahead and plug that into the unit. I'm going to power this up right now, and let's just take a look at that, and we can see that full. I'm just going to go ahead and blow out the frame there, just so you can see that. And there we are, powering off of a V-mount lock battery. So I'm going to strike the light again, unplug it. We're going to talk a little bit about power delivery over USB-C, which is becoming common now with a lot of fixtures. But there's some things that you have to know about this that are very important. Number one, the output that you're going to get from your fixture is going to be based on not only your power bank and the highest output that one of the ports may have, but also the power delivery cable. It's a combination of the two things. So in this case, I have a battery that can output up to 100 watts of power, so not the full amount for this fixture. There are others that do 140 watts. And I have a power delivery cable, which is at minimum 100 watts. This one can actually go much, much higher than that. So I'm going to take this battery and I'm going to plug that into the USB-C port. I'm going to strike the light. And then depending on that combination of the battery and the power delivery cable, which should be at least 100 watts, it will determine what my maximum output is. In this case, you can see that for this particular fixture, it's 54% with this combination of this battery and this power delivery cable. So if you had a battery and a power delivery cable which had a higher output, you could get more output from the 150C. Okay, that's the overview of the hardware for this particular light. Dip to black, come back up with the 600C. Okay, let's talk hardware for the 600C, and while there are a lot of similarities to the 150C, there are some differences. And right now what I have on here is the included 25-degree reflector. The beam angle of the 600C open-faced is 65 degrees, and then with this 25-degree reflector, you're getting a much, much tighter beam angle, and it's much more intensified. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. Same posi-tight system that you have on the 150C. And what we're going to do is talk about the mount itself first. Now, the 150C has the FE mount, the electronic version of that FM mount. This has the BE mount, the electronic version of the BM mount. So you can still use those accessories with this unit, but if you're using something like, for instance, that FL22E the motorized Fresnel lens that's on the 600C behind me, then you would be communicating using the BE mount. The yoke itself has different taps, quarter 20, 3/8 16, and the body has taps as well, similar to the 150C. But the big difference here with the 600C when it comes to the yoke system is the adjustability. It's a much larger fixture, which you're going to be using probably much larger accessories with. So adjustability and balance is going to be important. So if you take a look at the fixture here, there are releases for the yoke, and what I'm going to do is just release that on both sides. And then what it's going to allow me to do is adjust to 3 different positions on the yoke. That's position 1, which we're in initially. This is position 2. You can hear that click there, and then you can lock it in if you need to, if that's the position you want. I'm going to unlock that again and move it to position 3. So why would you want to change the position of your yoke? Well, there's a couple of reasons. If I go back to position 1, I'm giving myself a lot more room in terms of the yoke and the power supply. So that adjustability is great. And if I'm using smaller modifiers, it's probably the place and the position that I want the yoke to be in. But when you start to add larger accessories to the 600C, then you're going to want to adjust the position of your yoke. For instance, over my left shoulder, that FL22E is quite heavy and is sitting in front of the fixture. What I want to do is I want to move the light fixture back so that that center of gravity and that balance make a lot more sense. So what I'm going to do in that case, which I've already done with that fixture, is move that all the way up to the number 3 position, which when we actually mount this onto a stand, will move the fixture back. So when we have that large accessory, that balance is where it needs to be. Okay, I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to go over regarding the hardware of these fixtures, but there is one more thing that I want to discuss, which is both the 150C and the 600C are IP66 rated. That means these are all weather lights. These things are built like tanks and they are designed for any type of production. One note, make sure that you are covering all of the ports that you are not using with the included rubber covers to make sure that you're maintaining that IP66 rating. So for this last part of this video at the bench, I want to talk about modifiers and accessories. And because of the legacy of both Nanlux and Nanlite, there are a lot that are available already, and this family of accessories continues to grow. So I've got some here, some favorites for both the FE mount for the 150C and the BE mount for the 600C. We'll start with these ball diffusers, inexpensive, lightweight, and of course, once attached, will throw light in all directions, basically, and a diffused light source. So we have that for both of those different fixtures. This right here, this is a go-to for me for the 150C. It is the FL12. It's a manual adjustable Fresnel lens with barn doors. The beam angle can be adjusted from between 15 to 30 degrees, and it's incredibly lightweight and basically just lives on the 150C for me all of the time. So that's the FL12, 15 to 30 degrees. And then you can go up to the FL12E, the electronic version. Still very compact, but has a couple of extra features here. First of all, it can go from 15 to 35 degrees instead of 15 to 30. And then you can use these buttons on the side of the FL12E to control the actual fixture. So this would be to flood. This would be to spot. So you can see that. And then here's a couple of other ways that you can control it. Not the only ones, but a couple of others. You can go to the back of the fixture, and once you start controlling it, you can use these buttons on the back, the left and the right buttons on the back of the fixture. And then if you do attach the optional WCEXT, you can do it from here. So if I was rigging this up high or up in a grid, then I could control it this way as well. So not the only ways you can control it, but there's the FL12E. And then behind me, we basically have the equivalent for the BE mount, and that is the FL22E. And that has a beam angle going from 15 to 48 degrees. And of course, you can control this locally, like I just showed you, with the wired controller. And you can also control it using things like DMX, CRMX, and Ethernet. This over here is very handy. This is an NL to BE mount adapter. So if you're using larger modifiers for things like the 2400B from Nanlux, you can take that or something like the 5-foot Octa and put this onto your BE mount, and then it will allow you to use your NL mount modifiers with that particular fixture. And a couple of other modifiers that you can see in the frame. Over my right shoulder, there is the FE30 on the 150C. Over my left shoulder, the BE55 on the 600C. These are what are called parallel beam reflectors. And they are taking the light from each of these fixtures and creating an 8-degree beam of light that is ideal for long throws, has minimal spill, and can be used for a lot of different applications, but most commonly, we're going to be using these parallel beam reflectors to get light onto things like reflectors, mirrors, things like that. And if we need to take a beam of light and just throw it a far distance and have it be concentrated in a particular area. And in addition to all of the modifiers and accessories that I've been talking about already, we also have all of those additional accessories, many of which are compatible with the 150C and the 600C. For instance, from Nanlite, you have FM mount and BM mount projection attachments, and there are a slew of other modifiers that you can use with these fixtures to just give you tons of options to modify your light. So there you have it. That is part 1 of At the Bench with the Nanlux Evoke 150C and 600C. Make sure you check out part 2 At the Bench and also the on-location video where we take these out into the real world and talk about how to use the 150C and 600C with different accessories and modifiers. The goal here, as always, is education, so I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.